Well, hi. It's midnight. I didn't expect to go live again tonight. If I was gonna go live, I was gonna do a more fun stream than this, but such is life, I suppose. Such is life. We'll give people a minute to get their act together. Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. I have this thing in my office to kind of cool it down because it's hot as hell in my office. And I think it's making the air really dry, which is making my throat really dry, which means I need to get a humidifier, probably. Well, actually, Rottweiler, this is kind of what I'm afraid of. It hasn't happened yet, to the best of my knowledge, but I think we all can agree that James Lindsay, by the way, did you guys know that James Lindsay tweeted about me again today during my live stream? He did. James Lindsay tweeted about me again, and apparently James Lindsay is very annoyed that A, I know more about the left than he does. True. That B, I'm a free speech absolutist. That C, I oppose all foreign aid and all war and all genocide. And D, what else was he upset about? There was something else that James Lindsay was upset about. What was it? Oh God, I'm gonna have to look it up now. Holy hell! What else was he upset about? Hang on, now I have to actually show this. I definitely didn't get high before this stream, by the way. That definitely didn't happen, and that's definitely not why I'm experiencing short-term memory loss. That's hang on. We're just waiting for people to get here anyway, so I have it on my timeline. So it shouldn't be too hard to find. Hang on. We must be almost there. Got it. Oh, yeah, and I believe Israel's committing a genocide. Yeah, sorry, I don't apologize. So let me show you, well, let me start with this and I'll show you what happened here. So tonight, like at the very, and someone actually on Rumble, was like posting on Rumble, they were like, Carl and James, and I just wasn't looking at the Rumble chat. So James again retweeted Poetry Painter. And this time, Poetry Painter actually showed exactly the same tweet that I showed you guys on the stream earlier, where that moronic like Fox News anchor said all of us have been trying to figure out what these nut jobs want. None of their logic is making any type of sense now. And I retweeted him and I said, they want to abolish capitalism, you absolute retard. I don't apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, James. I do not apologize that I correctly identified to a Fox News personality who doesn't know that the left wants to abolish capitalism, that the left wants to abolish capitalism. Apparently, this makes me a pretender. Okay. And then the other tweet that she has here is the freedom of speech thing. And I said, if I was at Columbia University, I would be with the protesters. Theirs is the righteous action, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. I don't apologize. Sorry, James. James, I am so sorry that you don't think that college students have the right to free speech when they're exercising speech that you yourself disagree with. I am so sorry that you think that we should be funding foreign wars. I am so sorry, bro, that you haven't wrapped your head around the fact that Israel is absolutely committing a genocide. There's many things I don't agree with the college protesters on. Many things. But I believe they have the right to speech. I don't believe I should be paying one dime for Israel. And I think that Israel is committing a genocide. And apparently to Poetry Painter and to James Lindsay, both of those things, that I know more about the left than James Lindsay, and that I like speech and oppose foreign wars and oppose genocide, apparently they mean to James Lindsay that I've been some sort of pretender. I don't know what I'm pretending at. Yeah. How ironic they say we're in a cult when they are in a cult that worships a dead Israeli god. So anyway, I guess to go back to the point that Rottweiler had at the beginning, obviously James Lindsay is listening to this psycho that's been stalking me for 4 years. And this woman will do anything she needs to try to get people to smear me. Like, this woman has not like I cannot tell like I cannot adequately explain for people who are not familiar with this brand of crazy. This woman has done everything in her power literally for years to do everything she can to make my life miserable. Everything. She has no limits. She has no boundaries. She has no common sense. And guess what? The law does not exactly protect you in situations like this. This is a sad truth that I've learned over the past several years. I was so stupid. I thought, how could stuff like this possibly happen? That people can just stalk you and harass you for 4 years. Like, this is going to go on. This will go on as long as both I and she are on the internet. She will continue this every day of her life. And James Lindsay has decided to listen to this fucking lunatic, which means it's kind of inevitable that at some point, I'm going to bet all the money in my bank account, James Lindsay is going to be tweeting, Carlin dated a pedophile. Carlin's a pedophile. I mean, you know this is going to happen. You know this is going to happen. You know it's going to happen. Because it's been happening for almost 2 years. And so how could it not? How could it not? But that's not actually the only thing that happened to kind of spur this conversation tonight. Let me show you the other thing. The other thing actually started really nice. I was actually really surprised by it, if I'm honest about it. And that was with Jacob. Now, Jacob and I know each other because we're both libertarians. We both run in those circles. Ugh, that didn't feel so good on my back. I'm old, so my back hurts. So I have to sit in certain ways so my back doesn't hurt. Like getting old, and obviously I'm 29, but getting old is really fun. Anyway, Jacob and I know each other from libertarian circles, but we never particularly got along. And that's not uncommon, by the way. Like, a lot of libertarians don't get along with other libertarians. It's kind of like a meme, right? And he and I had a couple of rows, and I think I blocked him several times on Twitter. But, you know, like, I do have to give Jacob credit, because Jacob would, like, he would reach out to me every once in a while, and then I'd unblock him, and then he'd say something that pissed me off. I'd block him again, and then, you know, but to his credit, and it's like one of those things where you just, like, you don't, I stopped, well, certainly 2 years ago, if not before that. I stopped expecting people to do the right thing. You know, it's odd because, like, before all this internet stuff, like, I always gave people the benefit of the doubt before this. I think one of the things that has really been ruined for me by being on the internet is I can no longer give people the benefit of the doubt. I can't, like, with anyone that's online, I can't trust that they're going to do the right thing, because so many people don't. It's just like, and it becomes your normal. It's like, you know, that everyone, and especially with people who make content on the internet, that's the fucking worst, because sometimes I really do like people that I meet that make content on the internet, but unless there's like an explicit agreement, like, I'm not going to fuck you over, you're not going to fuck me over, like, unless you have that conversation and everyone is clear and everyone's on the same page, you just can't trust anyone. And you have to set up these situations where it's like, you almost have to, like, mutually ensure each other's destruction just to have, like, a normal human relationship. And it sucks. There are people on the internet that, like, I'm trying to figure out if I can trust them or not, and I'll give them information or I'll say something that I know that they can use against me if they want to, but if they tried to use it against me, it really wouldn't be the end of the world and I wouldn't really care all that much. But, like, I bait people sometimes to say, here's something that you can screenshot and use against me," just to see if they do. I hate that I have to do that. Because you can't have these conversations with people a lot of time because it comes across as really weird. It's like you wanna have this conversation, you wanna go like, "I can trust you, right?" And even when they answer yes, there's always that, like, thing in the back of your head. There's always that thing in the back of your head, "Can I really actually trust them?" And that sucks. Anyway, so Jacob today tweeted this out about me, and I wasn't expecting it. I didn't know he was gonna do it or anything, and, he said, "The liberty movement has been largely unfair and overly critical of Carlin. She does great work exposing the woke left and the woke right, and the movement should be amplifying her message." And that was really nice. I pretty much given up on the libertarians, if I'm honest about it. Now, there are some libertarians that are my friends. I have libertarians in New Hampshire who I consider to be friends. Um, Many of them screwed over by the libertarian community in similar ways that I've been screwed over. Because it's not like the libertarian community fucks everyone over. And it sucks because it is a beautiful philosophy, but it is impossible to exist in if you actually want to accomplish anything. Because the loudest voices in the liberty community just want to destroy people. And that's all it is. They get off on destroying people. They do it all day, every day. And at some point, the mob turns on everyone. And it's just like the people who seem to survive it and stay in the liberty community are the ones who have literally no shame and will just say and do anything. And it's like, do you really want to be around those people? I don't want to be around those people. And it sucks because there's a lot of good in the liberty community, and I had a really fun time. Is it like that in real life, or is it just an internet thing? I don't know anymore, bot. I really don't know. I'm just working out some feelings tonight, guys. If you'll allow me, you obviously don't have to stay if you don't want me to work out feelings on the internet, but or listen to me work out feelings on the internet. I'm really sad that it didn't work out with the libertarians, and I consider myself to be a libertarian. I consider myself to be an anarcho-capitalist, but there is no Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. That's dead. I mean, and I'm not just saying like there's no LPNH from the LPNH is dead in New Hampshire. All they are is a Twitter account. That's it. That's all they are. They don't do anything in New Hampshire. They don't have events in New Hampshire. They don't recruit new people to the party in New Hampshire. They don't do any advocacy in New Hampshire. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire literally does nothing. Well, can't you I'm sorry to hear that, Trendlin. I'm really sorry to hear you're not going. You should be able to go. You're on the executive, like, you're on the XCOM of California. You should be able to go. People should be able to crowdfund for Trendlin. See, you know what? The libertarian community loves to come together to like rip one apart. Can the liberty community come together and get Trendlin a couple $1,000 so she can go to the convention? Like, is that impossible? Am I asking too much? Can we do something good? Anyway. So it didn't work out with the LPNH because the LPNH no longer exists as any sort of like legitimate party in New Hampshire. And like the Libertarian National Party, I want them to be better, but it's just like the leadership has shit the bed. The Mises Caucus shit the bed. And the loudest voices in the culture are just awful, 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 awful people. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think Jeremy, it's my understanding that Jeremy Kauffman, okay, so it's my understanding from things I have heard from people that the LPNH executive committee continues to get complaints about Jeremy Kauffman and the Twitter. And I've talked about Jeremy's strategy for the Twitter when other things have hit the fan that I inevitably got blamed for, even though I wasn't involved. Like, people are basically complaining to the LPNH, and the LPNH refuses to do anything because they don't want to piss off Jeremy. That's what's going on. Jeremy is giving carte blanche to do whatever the fuck he wants because no one will tell him no because they don't want to piss him off. And it's a shame too, man, because Jeremy is one smart motherfucker. And the fact that this is how he channels his energy is mind-boggling to me. But yeah, like, what the hell was that tweet advocating for the cops? Whatever. So anyway, Jacob sent this about me today, and it was really nice. And we're looking at a sock account. We're looking at it through my sock account now, so I can see things on here that I can't in my other account. Because, oh, look, there we go. Poetry painter right there, mouthing off. But there were a bunch of other people in the comments, too. DL's a good guy. He's like DL Cummings, man. For people who don't know, like if you're not in libertarian circles, you might not know who DL Cummings is. DL Cummings, I'm not just saying this because he's saying nice things about me. DL Cummings is a legitimately good dude. Like, good guy. Like, really smart, just kind, very good. But then you have like other people that are complaining that I blocked them, blah, 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 blah. People demanding my disavowal, whatever. It doesn't even matter. But then we get to hear, didn't she date and defend a pedo or some shit? No. No, I didn't. No, I didn't. And it's been 2 years of this garbage. Millions of people, literally millions of people, believe I dated a pedophile and I defended a pedophile, and a lot of them believe I am a pedophile, which is the most ironic thing of all because I don't even like kids. I don't want kids to be near me. Please keep them away. No, seriously, keep them away. I no. But still, I get that it has been almost 2 years since Mike Harlow, who is a spokesperson for the Walkaway campaign and Brandon Strzok's best friend, doxed my college boyfriend in order to get revenge on me and to build clout because he was jealous that his platform did not grow as much as mine did. He is desperately chasing fame. He will say and do anything to be famous. And he has never done anything so successful in his life as smearing me for something that didn't happen. Poetry Painter spends more time harassing you than trying to get close to God, and she claims to be a Christian. That is because Poetry Painter is insane. So, for people who don't know the story, 2 years ago, Mike, and I'm not going to bring up the thread. It honestly disgusts me to look at Mike Harlow. Here, I'll show you guys something different. Do you guys want to see something different? Do you guys want to see something I don't show people all that often? Not because I'm ashamed of it, but because I just don't. But we're doing a special stream, so why don't I show you guys? Hang on. I'm logging into my Facebook, which is a rare occurrence. I don't actually use Facebook really at all. However, oh god, there's still a picture of me sitting next to James Lindsay in my cover photo. But the photo that I need on here, I don't need it, I guess. This is me and Darren. Long ass time ago. Almost 14 years ago. I'm not sure that that's actually when the picture... Oh, when was the picture taken? April 24th, 2010. So, wow. Almost exactly 14 years ago. Holy shit. You know, when you go to visit someone in federal prison, they have this cheesy photo drop, like they have a backdrop. And it's the weirdest thing because you're in a giant ass cafeteria with a whole bunch of cons and their girlfriends mostly, but you know, their families too. And everyone's making noise and like, but you have an opportunity to go get pictures taken and the guards take the pictures. It's just like, it's the weirdest effing thing. But a couple years after I graduated from college, Aaron went to prison. Aaron was my college boyfriend. He got big in prison. He got big. Let me show you. I'm not going to show you all the pictures, but this is Aaron when he went into prison versus Aaron when he's going to be thrilled that I'm showing this on the internet, by the way, I'm sure, versus Aaron in prison, because when Aaron went to prison, he went to prison for a long ass time. And so he ended up getting a, fun fact about him, like, not a pedophile, by the way. We'll talk about that. Don't worry. Aaron actually did a JD in prison. He went to law school in prison. And this actually is rare because most people who say they go to law school in prison, what they do is become a paralegal. Aaron actually got a Juris Doctor degree in prison. He did online school. His mother, he would hand write his essays. His mother, who is a psychotic woman. His mother is fucking psychotic, okay? But she's the type of psychotic that when her son went to prison for a crime he didn't commit, she went to his online classes for him for years, printed off all of the notes, did all of the online stuff, corresponded through him and through email, because they have email in prison. They didn't always have email in prison when Aaron was in prison, but they did pretty much for most of it. And so his mother would get him all his assignments and get him all the reading and all this stuff. And then Aaron would have to hand type or hand write like his assignments and send them back to his mother. And his mother would have to submit them all. And he completed a full Juris Doctor while he was in federal prison. And that's on top of when Aaron and I were in school together, because we met at Boston University. We met in college. How old was I in college? Was I a junior? No, junior, I think. Aaron in college studied math and computer science at the same time. And this is relevant to the story, while he was double majoring in math and computer science, he founded his own startup. And we were in college. I met Aaron, I think, in 2001. Now, for those of you who are not old, 2001 was a time before most of the internet as you know it today was created. And back in 2001, there wasn't PayPal, or at least not in the form that it's in today. And so what Aaron did back then is he wrote a piece of code that could go on to anyone's website and you would be able to process credit cards on your website. This, you got to, again, this was in 2001. This was a big deal. I think he even wrote the code before that. I think he might have written it when he was in high school. Aaron was always entrepreneurial. Him and his best friend Tim, and Tim plays a role in this story as well, always had some sort of business going. Like from the time they were little kids, they were childhood best friends, always had some sort of goddamn business going. So Aaron was an entrepreneur his entire life. Basically, he had a website hosting company. Like, I think he started that when he was in high school. So like he would he would sell hosting to websites. Again, this is back in the Wild West days of the internet. And he wrote this program that was just like lines of code that anyone could sign up for it, anyone could put it on any website, and you would be able to charge credit cards on your website. You might be able to guess where this is going. I met Aaron when we were in college, when he was running these businesses, and he was double majoring in 2 really effing hard subjects. And Boston University, it's not like, it's not like the Ivy League, but it's not a fucking slacker school either, you know? So because Aaron was young and stupid, and he was doing this when we were dating, Aaron's website code was used on a bunch of porn websites. Now, I didn't really think much of this in college because I wasn't really around it. I wasn't dating Aaron's business when I was 20 years old. I was dating him. And what I knew about him was that he was really, really fun. And he had a really nice car. He had a really nice Mustang. And he would take me in rides in it all the time. And I loved when Aaron and I would drive through Boston with the top down on that car, blaring music. And he always had something interesting going on. And, one of the reasons that I was loyal to Aaron, and I'm still loyal to him to this day, is that I really don't, Aaron was the person that brought me out of my shell. Because I didn't speak a lot growing up. And it was, I guess, because I was shy. And I am introverted. I'm naturally introverted, right? But I didn't speak a lot growing up because there was punishment in my house when I did. So I would literally went years of my life really without speaking in my own home, and that's a whole other story for a whole other day. But the reason I'm telling you this is that when I showed up at college in Boston, I grew up in a small town in Vermont, man. Going to college in Boston was a big fucking deal. Going to college in any city, my mother had tried to convince me to go to the small town college, and I didn't want to. And I was about to go to the University of Connecticut, which I didn't really want to go there either. But my mother was on my ass about it, and BU hadn't come through with the financial aid that we wanted. But then at the last minute, BU did come through with the financial aid that we wanted. And it was the very last minute. It was the week before I was supposed to send in my letter to say this is where I'm going to school. And so I was I'm going to Boston University is where I wanted to go. It was my number one choice. And that was a big deal. No one in my family had really ever gone to college in the city before, so that was a big deal. And so I turned up there very shy and very introverted and very self-conscious. And when I met Aaron 2 years later, it wasn't I hadn't grown at all in that time, because I think you can't not grow in college in some respects, but Aaron really brought me out of my shell. And he helped me get over a lot of irrational fear that I had. that I couldn't even put words to at the time because he was so kind of out there. He was like, and I loved him dearly. Now, Aaron and I don't always get along though, is the thing. And so we dated in college. I call him my college boyfriend, but really like what Aaron and I were was like we were hanging out all the time, like literally all the effing time. And but we were always both dating other people at the same time, but then we would sometimes sleep together while we were dating other people and like all this stuff. But we're like, hey, it was just like one of those things where I call him my college boyfriend, but it was really like a little bit more complicated than that. It was like a colloquialism, but it's just like what people understand, right? So after like when Aaron and I graduated from college, we were both actually dating other people. I was dating someone that I wound up getting engaged to that it would have been really bad if we got married. Like thank God that didn't work out because I know what that guy's doing now and it just it wouldn't have worked out, okay? Aaron was dating a girl from Sweden whose family was in Sweden, but she had come here to study and so he actually after college was living in Sweden. And he would come back to the US because Aaron, you got to understand, Aaron's businesses made a lot of fucking money. That little credit card code on a website, especially on porn websites, those Aaron was making a lot of money. Aaron had an apartment in Boston that he bought. He had always had like new cars and he was always like flying places. He would travel like all over the world. He was always like going somewhere. He always had something going on. And I would hear from Aaron every once in a while. Like he'd call me, say, Carlin, like, what's going on? Like, I need this, I need that, like whatever. Like Aaron, like we kind of kept in touch, but mostly after college, I went home to Vermont and I got a job in higher education at a college and I started working. And Aaron was running around the world. I never knew where he was going to be, like when I was going to hear from him next. And so we talked when we talked, and I knew that he was popping back and forth between Boston and Sweden a lot and all that, but I didn't really know what he was doing. So I'm at work one day and I get this letter. Let's go back to picture me and Aaron because that's actually better. This was the first time I visited Aaron in prison. But you can't really see him in that one. That's probably the best prison picture. So I was at work one day and I get this handwritten letter in the mail. And do I still have it in here? No, I don't have that one. This is funny. Jordan Peterson was asked, when will you have a conversation with Nick Fuentes? And he actually quote tweeted and said, when hell freezes over. Well, Jordan isn't so brave, is he? So I'm at work one day. I get this handwritten letter. And all it says on it is Carlin Morissette, which is my maiden name. And then the school that I was working at. Yeah, well, I'm kind of making a preemptive strike, Brucey, but there's also just like, there's a reason that's happened today. And I'm just like, I want to talk about it and I just want to get it. I feel like enough time has passed about this now that maybe if people actually have good faith questions, they can ask them without becoming fucking ridiculous. So I'm going to tell my side. I've already told my side before, by the way. This isn't even the first time I've told my side. But the thing is that no one effing listened. Anyway, so it had my name on it. The letter had my name on it. It just had the university that I worked at and nothing else. Because when Aaron wrote the letter to me, he could not remember anything else because he was in prison. I didn't know he was in prison yet. This is how I found out that he went to prison. So I get this handwritten letter from him saying, "Hi, Carlin, I'm in prison," and then explaining kind of what had happened. And this was not too long before Aaron was going to be sentenced. He had already pled guilty to something that, and I don't even, like, people on the internet probably remember the exact charges better than I do at this point, because I'm not going to go back and do a refresher course on like exactly all the details, but I know the basic mise en scène of what happened because I was there. So he got in touch with me right before his sentencing hearing, and he said, FYI, you're probably going to hear something about this. And I was like, you think, asshole? And I remember reading that letter at work and just crying because I knew something like this was going to happen. I knew something like this was going to happen. And the reason that I knew something like this was going to happen was not because of Aaron. It was because of Aaron's childhood best friend, Tim. Because Tim, who I also knew in college, because when Aaron came to college, Aaron and Tim knew each other from the time they were like little kids. We're talking like kindergarten here. They did everything together. When Aaron came to college in Boston, Tim got his rich father to buy him a house in Boston so that without going to school or doing really anything productive, Tim and Aaron could still hang out and could still do things together. One of the things that Tim did was Tim became a gay porn star. And that worked out really well for him because Aaron had written code that allowed Tim to put the code on his websites to charge money for the porn that he was creating himself. Again, I wasn't involved in any of this, but I did know Tim, and a lot of people knew Tim, and every single one of us warned Aaron, do not trust Tim. Like, everyone in Aaron's life told him this was not going to turn out well. We all knew Tim was going to end up in prison someday. He's like one of those types of guys that, like, and he's always doing something that is like real. And even I was like 20 years old at the time, and even I was like, it's not right. There's always doing something that's going to skirt the line of something. But Aaron trusted him implicitly, and he shouldn't have. People really this dull. Carlin is literally trying to expose the Marxist education of children, and people are trying to say she's okay with pedos. This has been my life for 2 years, Tayton. And it's astonishing to me. It's truly astonishing that I can have the body of work online that I have, which I'm very, very proud of. And yet, this is what I hear about more than almost anything else. And no one actually cares what the truth is. And that is the point of this goddamn stream. No one has ever cared what the truth of this story is. For all the people who have talked about me and spread lies about me and spread lies about my friend for literally years, no one has ever cared what the truth of this story is. No one has ever bothered to ask. I would have answered good faith questions at any time if they were asked in good faith. No one ever asked. They just assumed. And I was so stupid to think, Carlin, just keep your head down and focus on your work, and this too will pass and people will see. Because how can you look at the body of work that I have, the thing that is actually real, the thing that has existed for years now, and not know that the idea that I support pedophilia and pedophiles just sounds a little too suspicious? Because they don't want to know. And they don't actually care about solving the problem either. They don't care about this stuff, really. Most people just use this topic for clout. That's it. So we all told Aaron that Tim was going to get him in trouble someday, and Tim did get him in trouble. We just didn't think it would be like this. So, some of the lies that have been told about Aaron are that there was video of him with a kid. Let me tell you how the internet twists things. So after Aaron and I graduated from college, Tim moved to Florida. And I think he may have lived some other places too. I don't really recall all the details of that, but he ended up in Florida. And Tim always liked younger men. When Tim was 19, he was dating a 16-year-old. Now, again, I was 20 years old, and I didn't think too much of this, to be honest, because it was like one of those things where it's kind of like a teenage thing, and I knew the kid he was dating, and the kid he was dating was actually more mature than Tim was in many respects. So it was just like one of those things where it was like 20-year-old me didn't really think too much of the fact that 19-year-old Tim was dating 16-year-old Patrick was his name. And, that was just what it was. But Tim liked younger boys. And this is why we told Aaron, you need to stay the fuck away, because we knew this was going to get Tim in trouble someday. At some point. It didn't occur to me right away, because again, I didn't really think too much of it when it was just like a 19-year-old dating a 16-year-old. That to me is kind of acceptable. I'm sorry. People might frown on that, but like, that's kind of like, I'm okay with that. Well, after we graduated from college, and I want to be very clear that I was not in touch with Tim after we graduated from college. I never spoke to him again. Tim moved to Florida and married a woman. Now, this came as a surprise to everyone because Tim is very, 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 very gay. That woman had a 14-year-old son. So Tim not only now had a wife, Tim had a 14-year-old stepson. And I wasn't really, I didn't know any of this was happening at the time. And I don't actually think Aaron knew any of it was happening at the time, too. My recollection is that Tim got Aaron to come visit him in Florida, and Aaron shows up in Florida, and surprise, Tim is married with a 14-year-old stepson. And I don't think Aaron was actually expecting that eventuality. But he was in Florida, and he was like, I'm going to stay a few days, and then I'm going to leave. Like, whatever. Now, there is rumor on the internet that Aaron was in videos with the 14-year-old. And that is true, but they weren't adult videos, and they weren't pornographic videos. Let me tell you, because I remember, because they were posted on Facebook. They were posted on Aaron's Facebook account at one time, and I remember these videos. I know exactly what the videos were. The videos that they were in were Aaron and Tim and the kid shopping at the mall for jeans, and the kid had one of those little video cameras, and he was just fucking around, and he was just filming stuff. And so they went to PacSun at the mall and bought jeans. And then Aaron and Tim went and rented a jet ski and went jet skiing, and the kid filmed them jet skiing. That is the extent that Aaron was on video with a kid. Literally, they were at the mall, and then they went jet skiing, and that's it. And then Aaron left. And I don't think he ever actually saw Tim again after that. I could be wrong about that, but that's the best of my recollection. So Aaron knew that Tim was up to something, because Tim is always goddamn up to something. And I think even at this point, he had probably gotten tired of all this bullshit. But they were still childhood best friends, and Aaron was living in Sweden. Tim was in Florida, Aaron was in Sweden, I was in Vermont. I didn't know any of this shit was going on. Tim was still using Aaron's credit card processing program on the porn websites that Tim was both on and Tim was running. And Tim decided to work with some scandalous motherfucker. And I don't remember his name, but I can remind myself if I need to, because I did write it down somewhere. I just don't remember his name off the top of my head. Greg Mitchell. That's what it is. Again, someone I had never met, never spoken to. I don't even know what that guy looks like to this day. Tim was working with this scandalous motherfucker named Greg, who is still in prison, by the way. And Greg uploaded child pornography to the website that Tim was running and Aaron was processing the credit cards for, but Aaron didn't know. It's like one of those things where you have a drag and drop code where you put it on your website and then you sign a terms of service that says the person, like, I'm not responsible for what you're doing with this sort of thing. It's not like Aaron was monitoring every single website that had his credit card code on it. This is like the early Wild West days of the internet. So this third guy puts the child porn on the server. Tim is running a porn site on the server. Aaron is processing credit cards for it, not knowing what the fuck is going on. And then the FBI comes calling and raids the goddamn server. This was thing number one that happened. And actually, if it had just been that, Aaron probably would have been fine. If it had just been that third party put scandalous shit on the website and then like the FBI raided it and Aaron gets roped into it, but they know he's just like it probably would have been fine if it was just that incident. However, has anyone heard of someone named Kirk Eichenwald? While you're thinking about that, let me get it. This is like before fraud flagging. Yeah. Kirk Eichenwald. Oh, now I know what year this is. Kirk Eichenwald. I'm not giving you my email address. Oh, fuck. Hang on. I wonder if I can get that to refresh. In 2005, Kirk Eichenwald met a kid named Justin Berry. Justin Berry. Hang on. I think Red May. Oh, the Red May schedule is out. Oh, that's exciting, Naruto. Thank you for the super chat. Yeah, Maria knows. Maria knows who Kirk Eichenwald is. Yeah. Yeah, he is one scummy creature, Maria. He is one scummy creature. Let me tell you about Kirk Eichenwald. In 2005, Kirk Eichenwald met a 17-year-old named Justin Berry. Justin Berry was a drug-addicted teenager from an abusive home that when he was 17 years old, he used a fake ID to be featured on the porn websites that Tim was running with that third party. 17 years old, used a fake ID to do this. Justin Berry then met Kirk Eichenwald. And for some reason, and I don't know, there are suspicions that people have about this. For some reason, that's Justin Berry. And that's Kirk Eichenwald in that picture. For some reason, there's evidence of Kirk Eichenwald writing thousands of dollars in checks to Justin Berry, apparently to hang out with him at night, just talking, right? Yeah, sure. And so Kirk Eichenwald was working with Justin Berry to do, among other things, develop this story for the New York Times. Hundreds of thousands of computer files, including emails containing a vast array of illegal images sent among adults, have been seized from around the country. Information about Justin's members have been downloaded by the FBI from Neova. Neova was Aaron's company, the company that processed the credit cards. Neova and its owner, Aaron Brown, are targets of the investigation, according to the records and government officials. When this article came out, Aaron was in Sweden. He wasn't paying attention to any of this. Then, because of this article, Kirk Eichenwald and Justin Berry got called to testify in front of Congress. Testify before a U.S. House committee in April 2006. When this happened, someone that Aaron knows was watching C-SPAN that day. And they called Aaron and said, Aaron, do you know that they're testifying about you in front of Congress? And Aaron said, no, that's news to me. What's going on? And that's how Aaron discovered he was being investigated by the FBI. And so at that point, Aaron called the FBI. He called them directly and said, you're investigating me. Do you have questions? And the FBI hemmed and hawed. And they kind of said, we'll get back to you. The FBI had no idea what the fuck was going on. So Aaron was like, okay, you do that. And he was like existing in the state like, what the fuck is even happening? Like, I'm not even in the country. What the hell? Well, during that congressional hearing, it was made very clear that anyone connected with this Justin Berry thing at all would be sent away for a very, 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 very long time. And so what could have actually been like handled in a reasonable way back when it was like Tim and this third party doing scandalous shit, and Aaron's caught up in it because he's processing credit cards, but everyone kind of knew the deal. No one actually thought, including the government, by the way, no one actually thought that Aaron was guilty of anything having to do with kids. However, when you are in a situation where all of a sudden this accuser is testifying in front of Congress, and a New York Times reporter who definitely wasn't paying him thousands of dollars to sleep with him, that definitely didn't happen. Just because there are checks written to Justin Berry from Kirk Eichenwald for thousands of dollars definitely doesn't mean that anything was going on. This definitely wasn't a story that Kirk Eichenwald was trying to make his career on at all. But when congressional testimony is involved, and you have U.S. congressmen on the record, on fucking television, making it very clear that everyone involved is getting the book thrown at them, the situation changes. And that's when the FBI called Aaron back and said, "Can you come to Boston to talk to us?" So Aaron got on a plane. He came back. They arrested him at the airport. They put him, he called it cattle class, on a plane to Virginia. Or maybe he was held in Boston for a little while. I don't really remember the timing exactly of all of this. But like, there was definitely a point where Aaron was in Boston. At some point, they moved him to Virginia. And remember, when Aaron went to prison, he was pretty small. And because the government, I remember the moment clearly when I realized that if the government is coming after you, there's like nothing that you can do to stop it. And that moment for me was when I saw the arrest warrant signed by Alberto Gonzalez, who, like, maybe it wasn't the arrest warrant, but it was like some high level piece of paperwork. I forget exactly what it was, and someone's going to call me out if it wasn't that exact thing. There was some high level piece of paperwork about Aaron's case that was signed by Alberto Gonzalez, who was the Attorney General of the United States at the time. And I remember when I saw that document basically saying to go after him and to nail his ass to the wall. I remember when I saw that, I basically had a panic attack on my living room floor at the severity of all of this. So Aaron's now in a position where some of the most powerful people in Washington, D.C. are in a very public way demanding that he go to prison for the rest of his life for processing credit cards when he didn't know what was going on. Yeah. That's what happened. And Aaron didn't want to. He wanted to fight it. He did. He did everything. He did every single thing that he could to fight it. And there's a letter that he wrote to me that I published that no one ever read, in which he details the level to which that he went to try to fight this. Like, every time his lawyers ran a bunch of focus groups. They were trying to figure out, does he actually have a chance of being acquitted? And it turns out that if the trial had been held in Boston where Aaron was arrested, he probably would have been acquitted, because at the time, and remember, we're still talking about like the mid 2000s here. We're not talking about a technologically advanced population in terms of like nothing compared to what people know how to do today. But in Boston, people were a lot more tech savvy than they were in, say, Virginia. What the focus group said was that if the case had been tried in Boston, then Aaron probably would have won. However, if you move the case to Virginia and you add on a bunch of trumped up charges to make it look as bad as you can possibly make it, it doesn't even matter what the evidence said, because 80% of the prospective jurors convict on the basis of what he's being charged with. Because again, Virginia is a less tech savvy place at that time than Boston was. So Aaron can go through all the explanations about the technology involved, but the fact is that back then, people legitimately did not understand how this worked. So the government knew this. Aaron's lawyers knew this. And the government presented the and Greg Mitchell, who was, again, that third party that was involved that I never even met or had anything to do with. Greg Mitchell had gone to trial at this point. He had pled not guilty. He was fighting it. Greg Mitchell had just been found guilty. And this is my recollection. Again, I could be wrong. But my recollection is that Greg Mitchell got sentenced to 150 years in prison after pleading not guilty at his trial. Now, they were different charges. It wasn't exactly the same thing. But Aaron had just seen someone else involved in this that he didn't know I think maybe he had like one conversation with him one time because it was like a friend of a friend thing, but I don't think Aaron really knew him. Again, this is the best of my recollection. Greg Mitchell had just been sentenced to prison for 150 years. Aaron, whose lawyers had just run a boat ton of focus groups, was in a situation where he's being tried in Virginia, which is not ideal in terms of the ability of the population to understand the technology of what was going on. The government had trumped up all of these goddamn child porn charges on Aaron to make it look as bad as they possibly could, because they had United States senators and the Attorney General of the United States breathing down their ass. And Aaron had just watched someone get sentenced to 150 years in prison. He's like 24, 25 years old at this point. His lawyers backed him into a corner and basically struggle sessioned Aaron to get him to sign this plea deal. Now, the plea deal was actually really unique in that the plea deal gave a very, very, very specific range of time that Aaron could be sentenced to. Normally, in cases like this, you have this is my understanding. Again, this was a long ass time ago. Things have probably changed since then, but this is what it was like back then. Normally with plea deals in cases like this, you have kind of like a minimum sentence, and then you have a ridiculously large range. So it could be anywhere from like 10 years to 60 years or something like that. Like some ridiculously large range. What Aaron's lawyers, and this is only because the government knew that Aaron at this point had like been able to poke holes in a bunch of different aspects of their case. So the government was actually not 100% sure they could get the conviction on Aaron. So they wrote this plea deal to entice him to sign it that said he would get between 8 to 10 years. And that was it. And that was a really, 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 really small range of years compared to most plea deals of this type. So Aaron's lawyers were actually psyched about this. They were like high-fiving each other. They thought this was like the greatest deal ever. And all that was required was to browbeat Aaron into signing the goddamn plea deal. And he describes the moment that he signed it as signing his soul away on a piece of paper. But he wouldn't go to prison for the rest of his life. He had an 80% chance, according to his lawyers, of being found guilty in Virginia. And if he was found guilty in Virginia, he would have gone to prison for the rest of his life. So he took the deal. He pled guilty to things he didn't do because, guys, guess what? That's what happens when you plead guilty to a crime you didn't commit. You have to say you did things you didn't do. And he went to jail. Well, he was sentenced, I think, for 10 years. And it ended up being 8.5 for reasons. And I stuck by him. And I was pissed at his lawyers, by the way. I didn't find out about any of this until Aaron had already agreed to take the plea deal. He just didn't know what his sentencing was. And so he actually contacted me at exactly the right time, because if I had found out about this before he accepted the plea deal, I probably would have browbeaten him into like not accepting him, if I'm honest about it. And that probably would have been the wrong decision, because he would probably still be in jail today if I had done that. But I read his fucking lawyers the riot act good, man. I was pissed at his lawyers. I was so pissed. But it was what it was at that point. And so then you have to make a decision. Do you stand by someone who has been fucked over by the federal government for something that I know full well he didn't do? There is no reality in which Aaron participated in child porn or did anything with a kid. At the time, Aaron didn't even effing like kids. That's the truth. I'm not even convinced he likes them today. I haven't talked to him in a long time. And it's not because of all this bullshit is the reason I haven't talked to him. He and I weren't really talking anymore. And it's not like there was bad blood or anything, but Aaron, like, prison changed Aaron, man. Like, 8.5 years in a federal prison is going to change you, and it fucked him up. And I say that with love, but it did. And so the last time I had actually spoken to Aaron was I was in New York City, where he lived at the time. I don't know where he lives now. He might still live there. I don't know. But I was in New York City for a knitting thing, like the big knitting convention. Yes, they have those. Aaron lived in New York City, a couple blocks away from where I was. He came to my hotel. We had drinks. We chatted. That was the last time I saw him. And I actually hadn't seen him for a few years before that. And so he and I weren't really talking when all of this shit hit the internet. He and I haven't really spoken since. I really hope he's doing okay, because he has been dragged for years over this bullshit unnecessarily after he's already suffered enough. And so back to tonight, when people, of course, were bringing it up again, because God forbid someone says something nice about me on the internet. Everyone has to remind everyone, oh, she's that crazy pedophile girl, as soon as someone says nice things about me on the internet. I will never, ever regret I will never regret being loyal to him. What I will regret for the rest of my life is what happened to him, because someone wanted to get revenge on me. I carry so much guilt about this, because I know he went to jail innocent. And I know he served 8.5 years for something he didn't do. And it wouldn't have never been he would have never been dragged all over the internet in front of millions of people if it wasn't for me. If it wasn't for me becoming friends with the wrong person, because I trusted someone I shouldn't have. And the whole thing just like now I'm getting stuffed up and congested, of course. The whole thing, like, for all the people that smeared me and defamed me and called me horrible names and called my friend horrible names, no one ever asked me what happened. These people who pretended to be my friend as they were dragging me behind my back, none of them ever asked me what happened. Did any of them even really believe that I was a pedophile or that I would support pedophilia? I somehow doubt it. It was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. It made me hate people so much. I became clinically depressed from it for a long ass time. And while I was clinically depressed, I just kept getting hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered. And I had to watch my friend get hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered and hammered. And not a single fucking person, not a single person who claimed to care about the truth actually cared enough to even ask the question of what happened. And people just kept telling me, just keep your head down, just keep your head down, just keep focused. That's all you can do. And people will see, people will see. Well, people never saw. People never saw. People didn't care. I shouldn't say that. I really shouldn't say that. I need to be more fair, because there were members of my community that have been around a long time that were there when all the shit hit the fan, and they all knew. They all fucking knew. I did a stream about it at the time. It's like people can actually go back and watch the stream I did at the time, where I said exactly the same thing I'm saying now. I think I went into it more in depth now than I did back then. But like, people knew at the time. They got it. But anytime I did something that rubbed someone the wrong way, or that they didn't like, or any of those things, the very first thing they would do to me is say, "Oh, you're just a fucking pedophile," or "You're a pedophile defender." Like, it's the first thing that they hurl, even when they know it's not true. The ease in which some people call other people a pedophile, or just hurl around these horrible accusations. It's gross. It's so disgusting. And for some reason, the people that have done this to me, they somehow still have this self-righteous arrogance that they're the good guys and I should apologize to them. I thought a lot about what if I just denounce Aaron? Is that gonna make the pain go away? It probably would have made things better because the fact that I wouldn't publicly denounce him, that was always something the mob used against me. Oh, she's a pedophile defender. She's a pedophile defender. She's a pedophile defender. She's a pedophile defender. Because I wouldn't denounce him. I've heard this literally almost every day in my life for years. Maybe if I had just denounced him, we're not really talking, we're not really in each other's lives. Would it have made a difference? Well, the people who wanted that, who demanded that I do what they wanted, they're horrible, shitty, toxic people. That thread today that was written about me, like the people who were responding, she dated a pedophile, They act like they're the ones that disassociated with me. No. No. Why would I ever want to associate with people like them? And I don't care who they are. I don't care how many followers they have. If someone can't look at the facts that are right in front of them because their thirst for blood is so great, then you don't want that person in your life. And I had to cut out a lot of people. A lot. A lot. Because every time I said something that someone didn't like, there wasn't any sort of conversation. There wasn't any sort of good faith attempt. It was always, they would jump right to, "You're just a pedophile," every single fucking time. And I was like, what is even going on? How can these people be like this? But the minute that someone calls me that, I'm sorry, you no longer get to come around me. I will block you. I will ban you. I will do whatever it takes to keep you as far away from me as I possibly can. Assholes have taken joy in your pain. Yeah, a lot of people have taken joy in my pain. And in his. I feel like I've seen like really dark parts of humanity in the past several years. And I think my life would be better if I didn't know this existed. I think that my life would be substantially better if people never knew who I was on the internet. I think my life would be substantially better if I had never gone viral, never gotten into politics, never put myself out there. I regret it all the time. I never wanted to be on the internet. This was not part of the plan. It just happened, and then I went with it because I thought it was the right thing to do. And in the process, I got someone very dear to me hurt. And it's still a reality that I have to confront all the time. So, since there is a very real chance that this is all about to come up again, because James Lindsay is not going to be able to help himself, I thought I would just put it all out there. And if people want to ask questions, you can ask questions. But I'm not going to answer people that are acting in bad faith, and I'm not going to apologize to anyone for the choices I've made because I don't regret the choices I've made. I didn't do anything wrong. And I never deserved to be treated like this, and he never deserved to be treated like this. So if anyone has questions, now's the chance. Since no one ever bothered to care before, perhaps we can just get it all out of the way. How do I know he didn't know? Because I knew the people involved, and I knew Tim, and I knew how Tim operated, and I knew how Aaron operated, and I knew that they just didn't communicate all that much, and if Aaron had known, Aaron would have stopped it. If he had known, he would have stopped it. There was an incident. See, this is when Aaron really should have cut ties with Tim. There was an incident before I met Aaron in college in which Tim, and I didn't find out about this until later, but there was an incident in college in which Tim put something on the server, or it was like Tim, like what the fuck was it? I'm about to horribly flub this story. It wasn't that Tim did it. It was that there was some sort of server that Aaron and Tim had that got hacked by these Russians, and that Tim found out about it, and there was a lot of stuff on the server that shouldn't have been there. And Aaron almost kicked the ever-loving shit out of Tim for that. So I know he didn't know because Aaron didn't like kids. Aaron wasn't even in Florida when all this was happening. He was in Sweden. They weren't really talking. Everything was just happening automatically on Aaron. The extent of Aaron's involvement in the credit card stuff at that point, where he would have to do a payout like once a month to everyone that had money coming to them. That was it. That was all he was doing. But the biggest mistake that he made was not cutting ties with Tim when we were in college, or earlier than that, to be honest. That was the biggest mistake he made. Well, if there's anyone that should understand the government coming after them, it's probably the Grapers. And if they don't understand it yet, they should really learn. I think one of the biggest things for me is, and why I'm such like a stickler about primary source evidence, like primary source evidence, like actually listening to people. I mean, I had to teach a lot of this stuff when I was practicing organizational psychology, right? Because, like, I mean, honestly, like in the workplace, most problems are created because people aren't listening to each other. They're just waiting to talk all the time. But I think another reason I'm so big on you need to actually sit down and listen to people is that no one listened to me during this. I published it. I mean, hang on. I have this Substack I haven't really written on in a while, though it's not because I don't want to write on it. It's just like a time issue. I have like all these Substacks that I have. I have a lot of writing in my head and I don't have enough time to sit down and actually do all of the goddamn writing. But I have this Substack called the Red Pill Diaries, which is redpilldiaries.substack.com. And if you scroll down, I'm going to click see more. You'll find this December 30th, 2022. The real story about why I was loyal to my friend who went to prison despite what the woke cancel horde claims. That's me and Aaron. That was when Aaron was in the halfway house right after I think this was the first time I saw Aaron after he got out of prison. I had to visit him while he was in a halfway house. And this is, if people want to know all the details, starting here, I hand typed the letter that Aaron sent me explaining what happened. You can see it's a long ass letter, but you can read through it all. He talks about how his lawyer struggle sessioned him. He talked about all the different people involved. He talked about what it was like to get arrested. He talked about how he tried to fight it. This is all here. I read this all on the internet. Here, let me read the last part. Hang on. This is when Aaron is still trying to fight this. Let me just read this. Why not? We're here. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll read this. We were in court again just a week before the trial. This is one of the many TV-formed legal misconceptions I've since been educated about. My mental image of trial was some guy just off the street that morning and in the courtroom for the first time. The reality is the guy or gal had been spending his or her days in a cell for already a year. And the judge and the prosecutor and the defense have all been in that room together many times before the jury showed up. By the way, Aaron talks about in this letter, let's go back to this. Aaron was a skinny little fucker when he went to prison. Aaron got the shit kicked out of him in prison over and over again, to the point where they put him in protective custody, which is basically solitary confinement. And that's where he spent basically a year leading up to his trial for something he didn't do. My two lawyers, I got an extra one because of the rare degree of complexity in this case. Me and the three federal prosecutors, never to have their advantage taken from them, they pulled down an extra from Washington and then another just to really rub it in. All of us were nervous over the prospect of losing the case. My attorneys, because their client's life is done if they lose. Me, because it's my life to lose. and them because they might be the ones to actually lose a federal case, with Washington breathing down their necks, no less, and both sides were dealt a serious blow. I requested a motion in limine that the prosecution be barred from mentioning the scandalous stuff that Tim has done. That is, if you're actually going to prosecute, whatever. Talk about me. They fought that one ferociously, which tipped my lawyers that was the core of their case. Tim. So Aaron's best friend was the core of their case, not Aaron. The judge denied my motion. My side moved into panic mode. And then I wrote, Carlin's note, Aaron doesn't mention this here, but this is I didn't fucking remember this. Holy shit. So remember how we talked about how Greg got 150 years in prison? The same judge that had just sentenced the third party guy, who, by the way, the third party guy, Aaron talks about this in the letter. It's all coming flooding back to me now. The third party guy thought he was going to get like 20, 25 years, like max. Ended up getting 150 years. The same judge who sentenced Greg to 150 years when he was expecting 34. Actually, it says it right here. He was expecting 34 years. So I was a little bit low in my, but like he was expecting a much lower sentence than what he got. That was the same judge in Aaron's case. So in Greg's case, there was a phone call from Congress to the judge. Aaron had the same judge, same call from Congress. Do you think Tim or people close to him could have bribed someone in order to lessen his charges? No, because they didn't. Like Tim was in jail for much longer than Aaron was. Tim was in jail. I mean, Greg Mitchell's still in jail. I think Tim was in jail for like 15 years. Tim honestly should have gotten a longer sentence though, if I recall. I don't recall exactly, but no, I don't think that happened, Rottweiler. I would have no problem saying it if I thought it did, but I don't think it did. Then the judge asked how much time he needed to block off for the trial. The United States answers first, and the official government pompous. Of course you're guilty. There is no defense. Way. That the case will take about 2 weeks. Then we answer that if the government needs 2 weeks, we need 2 weeks to debunk them and 2 more weeks to introduce our own evidence. To put that in perspective, 99% of trials take only a few hours. I don't know what I ever did to find myself at the center of a crazy storm, but I think we need to accept this as a permanent trend. Well, yeah, Aaron was actually deeply prophetic about that. That was the tip of the prosecution had otherwise feared. This case wasn't going to be another Tim or Greg. I had actual evidence of my innocence. Their side moved into panic mode. Within an hour, my lawyers had it in their hand. Plead to 10 years in exchange for protection from the threat of lifelong imprisonment. The next 3 days were a fight. The lawyers came to the jail each day, and each day I sent them back. They had done a mock jury focus group to see what average citizens thought about the case. The results were interesting. People under 30 acquit. People with tech savvy acquit. People who have children currently in high school or college acquit. The older, tech ignorant, and religious right types convict, but not on the evidence, as apparently no jury has ever done in the deliberating room, but on the he should have known Tim was a child pornographer and is thus guilty of the conspiracy, which was exactly the prosecution's case. I was no longer being tried as the CEO of Neova. I was being tried as a plain citizen. The lawyers got the list of 110 potential jurors pulled here from Roanoke. Of them, 5 were candidates for acquittal. compare that with the demographics of Boston. So I want to emphasize this. Of the 210 potential jurors, 5 of them matched the demographic that would acquit based on the focus groups. They were pushing me to sign. I would have none of it. I don't like getting railroaded. I'm more of a give me liberty or give me death kind of guy. We eventually locked in some sort of mock cross-examination drill. Did you ever travel with Tim? Yes, I did. And did Pat ever come along? Yes. And was he under... Pat was Tim's 16-year-old boyfriend who turned 17 at some point that I talked about earlier. When for people who might not have heard that, when Tim, who was Aaron's childhood best friend, was 19, he was dating a 16, 17-year-old. It didn't, that happens. That's what this was about. And remember, too, this was back in the day when people really hated gay people, like a lot more than people hate gay people today. And did you ever travel with Tim? Yes, I did. And did Pat ever come along? Yes. And he was under 18 at the time. I believe so, 17 perhaps. And just so we're clear, Pat's parents were not present. That's correct. Did you ever stay overnight in a hotel on these trips? Yes. And Tim and Pat stayed in the same room? Yes. In the same bed? Yes. Shock, gasp from the jury. And you know this because you also stayed in the room? Yes, but... And you're trying to deny in this courtroom today that you deny that Tim, the known pornographer, who is obviously having a sexual relationship with an underage boy, a homosexual relationship, that you deny you were given reason to suspect he might be making his money from the sale of illicit child pornography? Yes, but the bailiff is now restraining some of the jurors who had started climbing over the barriers. Guilty, guilty, guilty. And then I wrote a note here, and I stand by this, as someone who was also on some of those trips when we were in college and stayed in the same hotel room, it's important to note again that in my eyes, Tim and Pat's relationship was no different than a 19-year-old guy dating a 17-year-old girl. It's not like he was 40 or something. It's one of those things where if you weren't gay, you wouldn't bat an eye at. Pat's parents were well aware. I had actually met Pat's parents. Pat's parents knew what was going on. The relationship lasted until Pat was well into his 20s. And yes, we all suspected at some point Tim would be arrested, but not for this. Personally, I thought it would be some sort of fraud, but I digress. I did actually think it would be some sort of fraud. No need to proceed any further with the prosecution. The jury has stopped listening. My lawyer is pointing out that to a jury, my yes, but it wasn't like that if you were there sounds like a criminal's excuse. He says they've done amazing work on proving the didn't know in federal system has a 99.8% conviction rate. Based on his experience, I have like a 20% chance of full acquittal. But the downside risk is too great. The judge has done everything he can to assure you have no appeal. You have no appeal. The outcome of this trial is forever. Done. The minimum sentence is life. There is no parole. You will never step out into the world again. You die in a prison cell. You like Russian roulette? Well, in your version, all the chambers have bullets, save one. Want to play? But in Russian roulette, you can get up and not play. I didn't have that option. So there I was, trapped in that little room, silent. I'll never forget that feeling. You were just out walking along and without expecting it, suddenly fall right through the ice. You don't feel the cold, only an unknown discomfort everywhere. Where's the way out? Pushing and banging your fists, it won't budge. Why won't it? Where's the way out? You can see right through to the other side there. The seconds march you ahead. Something must give. Please, please, give. I can't breathe. Why won't you let me go? It never does. You resign yourself to your fate. I inked my soul out onto that paper. Then he talks about the sentencing. Because that letter was written before he was sentenced. It disgusts me that people use this as a punchline. It disgusts me that people use it as a joke. It disgusts me that people will overlook every single bit of my body of work because they heard a rumor that they couldn't be bothered to double check. There's no one doing what I'm doing on the internet. What I'm doing is incredibly difficult. And yet it has been destroyed and sabotaged more times than I can remember by the so-called anti-woke right, who insists on dragging me and dragging my friend through the mud every chance they get for their own amusement for something that happened 20 years ago. They're so concerned with wanting to win that they overlook every bit of information that I have today. It blows my mind because no one has what I have. They can pretend they do, but they don't, and we all know it. And the amount of time that I have to spend defending myself from this, so I can't wait for when Poetry Painter decides to talk about this someday and tags James Lindsay in it. And he, because he has lost every intellectually honest bone in his body, sends it out to 500,000 people because he's angry that I'm better at this than he is. He's angry that I'm a better teacher than he is. He's angry that the way I analyze information is more predictive than what he does. He's angry that I know more about the current activists on the left than he can ever dare dream. And he's showing with his behaviors that have been going on for weeks now that he won't hesitate to go this low. I have no doubt in my mind that he will not hesitate to go this low. And I think we should all be prepared for that when it happens. And so I'm preempting it. Because now if he goes this low, I have something I can say to say, I knew you were going to do that. And if people want to know the truth, they can go here. And they can listen to the truth. And they can believe it or not. So far as I'm concerned, it is an excellent filtering mechanism to know who I should trust and who I can't. To know who is worthy of my time and attention and who's not. See, Dan has taken shit for supporting me. There were people that demanded that Dan publicly denounce me, and he wouldn't do it. And I know the reason that he wouldn't do it because Dan saw the quality of my work. Dan saw that I got the head of the American Library Association on tape admitting that libraries should be sites of Marxist organizing. He saw what I was doing that no one else was doing. And so when the mob came to Dan, and he can testify, he can confirm in the chat, this happened. They demanded that he publicly denounce me, and he wouldn't do it. And because Dan refused to publicly denounce me, They publicly denounced him and called him a pedophile protector and all this bullshit because he wouldn't publicly denounce me. That happened. That's what we're talking about. But I got to give Dan a lot of credit because Dan has never wavered. Never once wavered. And in fact, I think he kind of used it against the people that were making the demands, didn't he? You don't find people like that. That's extremely rare. And, in some respects, if I hadn't gone through this, I wouldn't be able to do what I'm doing now because I really do feel like, can I let you guys in on a little secret? It's almost 2 a.m. Not many people watching right now. Can I let you guys in on a little secret? This is something I showed once on a stream, and it's not done yet. It's not done yet by a long shot. What I'd really like to do... Oh, hang on. I don't want you seeing that. I'll have to change that later. Always gotta change stuff when you accidentally show it on the internet. That's fine. Back when all this happened, I really thought that the only way that I was ever going to be able to have the impact that I wanted to have was that I had to get accepted by the mainstream. I had to be able to get on to get the influencers to read. My premise was this: my work was going to be so fucking good that no matter how much the influencers hated me, they would have to share it because that's how good my work was going to be. Now, what I didn't take into consideration at the time is that if they don't like you, they're just going to steal your journalism and call it theirs, which is what ended up happening. They didn't like me. I didn't have the right image. And so they stole my journalism and called it theirs. So that plan didn't quite work out. But back when all this was happening, I really thought that that was the only way I was going to be able to have the impact that I wanted to have. And then going through all this, it became very obvious to me that no matter what I did, no matter how good my work was, no matter what I was doing that no one else on the internet was doing, I would never be able to please those fucking people. I would never be able to please them. And people who've been following my work for a while, they know this. They know how many stories I've covered that are so much better than what you see on mainstream conservative media. And no one will cover them because I'm the one that did them. Amelia, thank you for the super chat. Got canceled over a rumor. The group's mad at me. We're angry at the idea of me. I've never had a public persona online, but it didn't matter. Partner was sent CP and assault threats, death threats on rumor. Most didn't look into it. That's exactly it. Most people don't look into it. I'm really sorry that happened to you, Amelia. So I tried and I tried and I tried over and over and over again to get accepted by these people, and just thinking, if I just keep producing brilliant fucking work, which I really do think I'm doing, eventually I'm going to get accepted by them. They have to. But now I realize that they don't, because they would sooner take far inferior work than what I'm doing and have that, libs of TikTok, then actually solve the problem. Sorry you're having to go through this again. It's why I know we are losing. People would rather believe randos on the internet than reality. They would rather smear you than open their eyes. Ain't that the truth, Jenny? I appreciate your support as always. And then, well, a bunch of other stuff happened. And at some point, it became clear to me that I was never gonna, like, there's just, like, nothing I could do to get mainstream acceptance for what I'm doing. And by mainstream, I don't even mean mainstream like normies. I mean like the influencer class, or like getting stuff on the news or stuff like that. There might be like a freak accident every once in a while where something goes on the news, but like by and large, I report really important, really good stories that never get covered. But I've decided, and I came to this conclusion back in December, really, that I'm actually much more interested in doing, like, something where, I mean, pun intended, I have a cult following. I wanna create this as, like, a cult movement, like an underground cult movement, because if what the mainstream influencers was going to change the world, and if it was gonna work, it already would be working, and it's not. And so maybe, like, I have to, like, lean back onto, like, my belief system, and maybe if something's not working and every single fucking roadblock is being put in front of me because of this, listen, I have to assume all this happened for a reason. A week before Aaron got doxxed, I had a reading with a medium. It wasn't Joshua. I cheated on Joshua with another psychic. But it's like this YouTube medium, and she actually doesn't live that far away from me, and we connected, and she wanted to do a reading for me, and so I said, "Fine." This was a week before Aaron was doxxed, and she did this whole complicated tarot spread. Joshua never does complicated tarot spreads. Well, very rarely. Like, he knows how to do them, he just doesn't do them. But, like, she did this whole complicated tarot spread, and she, like, tuned into, like, her sources and guides and all this stuff, and what came out in that is she said, "Carlin, things are about to get really bad for a while, and I'm sorry about that, but something really bad is going to happen. And what I want you to hear is that you're going to be stronger on the other side of it." And I had no idea what was coming. And so I was like, I kind of dismissed it. I was like, well, like who really knows? Like, whatever. I had no idea. But as soon as Aaron got doxxed, I understood. And then it was a year of me being in a really bad place. And then I got to the other side of it. And she was right in that she told me that this needed to happen in order for me to be able to do what I needed to do. And I didn't understand what that meant at the time, but I do understand it now because I'm on the other side of it now. There is nothing these people can do to hurt me anymore. Not really. I mean, they've made stuff up before, but they would really have to dig deep into, like, the bullshit jar in order to do anything. And so now I exist in a space where I'm never going to be accepted by the mainstream influencers. They're never going to share my work. It's never going to happen because they're assholes. I'm never going to be accepted by people who are too stupid to do a basic fact check or to think for themselves. We have to just like zero all that out. But what I can do is I can appeal to an abnormal audience. I can appeal to an audience that doesn't look at the world in black and white, that can look at things from multiple different angles, that have enough sense to stop when something doesn't make sense and say, what's actually going on? That actually fact checks things, that actually cares what the truth is, that aren't raging, toxic assholes on the internet. And yeah, I mean, I've always said my audience is like the bad news bears of the internet. And so really, what's stopping me from creating an underground cult following? Where it's like, you can let the clueless normies dick around with libs of TikTok or Chris Rufo stuff or like doing the actually, you can let the people who actually believe that Ron DeSantis is stopping woke indoctrination in schools, believe the fairy tale that they're being sold in the mainstream media. That's fine. But we have a chance to actually do something fucking cool. And that's what we're starting to build out now. The Daily Wire talks shit about they're going to influence culture. No, they're not. No, they're not. Let me show you guys something. Hang on. I want to actually get into the So these are hang on. So this is in my supporter Discord. All that stuff you just saw on that website, the zines, people are starting to take the things from that website and put them in the real world. They're putting them on billboards. You can see right here. They're putting them where like people post stickers and flyers and things. All of these zines. Where is it? I couldn't find it earlier too. Oh, right here. All of these zines lead back to my Substack for more information. Oh, look at there it is, right next to a Turning Point flyer. We're creating things to put out in the real world where people go. This one is in a weed dispensary. I think that's as good a place to build an unwoke army as any. How do you get in my Discord, Dan? Well, I'm glad you asked. How you get in my Discord is... Dan, I can send you a link to this too. I'll send you a link privately, but I'll tell people how to get in generally. How you get in my Discord is you head over to my Substack and you become a paying supporter because it's only for supporters. And you go to the Unwoke Roundup email. And I'm not going to do it because I'm logged in on this, but if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, I'll go almost there. I did a lot of content last week. But if you scroll all the way down the bottom, underneath this, here is where the supporter perks are. If you're not a supporter on my Substack, you're going to see a red box. But that's where you find the supporter Discord link. And we're starting to build out this project where anyone can go on this website. I haven't talked about this much yet because it's not done yet, okay? You're seeing a work in progress. This is not done yet. But I've got some stuff up on it. And what this is anyone can go on and download this stuff and print it off And right now there's just a bunch of flyers and you can staple them together and make like booklets or whatever. We've got stickers coming, we've got pins coming, we've got bookmarks coming. There's going to be a lot more stuff. I just put the song up. And we'll listen to the song tonight because that'll make me happy. I just put the song up that I did. I put up Reagan's lyric sheet, so we'll make a whole music section. I want to make a section. I want to make a section where people can go and download these, like my socialist dictionary stuff, so that anytime you're talking with someone online and you're trying to like give them a definition of a term, you can just go onto that website and find it, and it'll be a little bit easier than how I've got it set up now. So stuff like that. I want to create an underground like cult movement where only the people who want to be like at the tip of the spear are involved in it, and only people who actually like really care. And that's what I want to do. I know my teaching methods are more effective than anyone's. There's literally no doubt in my mind that if I can get people to watch my videos, to watch my live streams, and to come and watch, if I can get people to come and watch woke training and socialism with me, I can teach anyone to understand this. There is no better teacher about what the left is doing right now than me. And if someone thinks I'm wrong about that, then tell me who is a better teacher than me, because I want to go and learn from them. But I don't think there is a better teacher in the country right now for this type of content than me. And James Lindsay can have all the fucking feelings that he wants about that. I don't really care, because James Lindsay is not as good at this as I am. But the only way that my stuff is actually going to get out there is if we can start to access real communities in the real world. And the only way to do that is to honestly create our own fucking subculture. We need to create the counterculture. And so what I want to do is I want to create the fucking counterculture. I want to create this like punk rock inspired counterculture that pushes back on the dominant authoritarian system of our time. And that dominant authoritarian system is woke. There is woke on the left and there's woke on the right. And by the way, I'm pretty sure I coined the term woke on the right. I'm pretty sure I coined it in 2021. If someone has it, if someone had it earlier than me, fine, tell me. But I was the first person talking about how the right was going woke in 2021. Early on, like we're talking like January or February. I wrote about woke on the right in my book. Yeah. This is a real fucking anti-establishment movement. Anti-establishment on both fucking sides. They can all eat a dick. And I don't think there's anyone that is better positioned to do it than I am. Because I'm not trying to be accepted. I'm not trying to be accepted. I know that's not going to happen. And I think I've been pushed just close enough to insanity that it's actually beneficial from just like a strategic standpoint, in that I don't give a fuck anymore. I have been raked over the coals. I've watched my friends be raked over the coals. I have experienced every possible form of harassment that you can possibly experience. I don't give an F anymore. No, it's not a parallel economy. No one's gonna create a parallel economy. That's not gonna happen. What I'm talking about is culture. I'm not talking about stuff. I'm talking about culture. And so that's what I wanna do. I wanna create an underground cult movement, and I think that's already been started. And in order to do that, I needed to run out of fucks to give, and I have run out of fucks to give. And, you know, I said from the very beginning, if I was gonna do this stupid internet thing, I was gonna live an unapologetically authentic experience with the ups and the downs documented. And people can give me shit for crying on video, and they can call me a cry bully all they want, and I don't really care. Because I think everyone knows that that's not true either. Again, you're getting called those names by the most horrible, toxic people. If you are getting called names by the most horrible, toxic people on the internet, you can't take that seriously. I want to connect with real people who want to do cool shit, who hate this woke bullshit, who hate the socialist left, who are hinged into reality, and who are at the tip of the fucking spear, and who aren't afraid to mouth off when it's required, because it's going to be required a lot. And, people don't get why I have a tone. Well, it's a goddamn filtering mechanism, because if you can't deal with my tone, you sure as shit can't deal with the left. So the rules are you don't talk about the Unwoke Club. Second rule is you don't talk about the yeah, basically. Not the Unwoke Club, not the Unwoke Club. Not that. Hang on. Not the Unwoke Club, Brucey. The Unwoke Underground. Yeah, that's not going to happen. That's a pipe dream. But I'm Tim Pool. Tim Pool wants mainstream recognition way too much. I mean, of course, why not? Why not? Yeah. Why not? Do it. Make cool shit. I mean, and I have to give a big shout out to like Honest Dog. Honest Dog is a member of my community, and there have been other people making stuff too, and I just haven't put them on the website yet. But Honest Dog has been making all this great art. And Bot's been making some great art. Gayla's been making some great art. We've got other people working on this. And then she just said, just take it and put it out there. Anyone can download it. You can do whatever you want on it. Like, I think this is cool. I fucking love this. I'm making shirts. Look at this. I haven't officially launched these in the store, but they are in the store. Look at these. I'm making shirts with the zine stuff on it. Like, I love this stuff. This is like stuff that you would get in like a music store when music stores used to be cool. I don't know how many of you actually remember this. There used to be these things called CDs. This is back before iPod was a thing. There used to be these things called CDs, and sometimes there were things called records, and sometimes there were cassette tapes too. Although I wasn't really around so much for like the cassette tape, but I was definitely around for the CD thing when you had to travel everywhere with your case of CDs. And the place where you would buy those CDs would be a record store where you could also buy records and cool stuff, and you could buy cool t-shirts and things like that. And so like what I want is to create these fucking cool t-shirts. Like, look at this shirt. Queer theory, political ideology. Queer is not about being gay or trans. And it has all the stuff on it. And it has a QR code where someone could literally scan the QR code on your shirt and go to the website. And it's also just a fucking cool shirt. I love this shit, man. I love this. Like this, you don't even know what this is. But it looks fucking cool. This is the stuff you used to be able to like buy before everything was just like overly manufactured. I want like all of these. We're gonna put everything on a t-shirt because I just want all of them. Honest Dog even has this one. Honest Dog has this t-shirt in gold and it looks so cool. I mean, come on. Anyway, I want to make cool stuff like that. You're putting them on your reusable grocery bags? What a great idea. I mean, we can make pins, we can make stickers, I'm trying to get all sorts of this stuff in the store. It's been just like a massive project though, but like it'll be so cool when it's done. Hey, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And you guys can go on this website too once we have, I mean, you can go on there now, but once we have everything on here, you can download all of this. If you don't want to buy stuff from my store, if you just want to make your own damn t-shirt, just download it. You can have there are high-res PDF for all of these things. Make your own. Like, you don't need to, like, buy merch from me. You can literally take this stuff and make your own stickers, make your own pins. If you have stuff at home you want to do this, print it out at home, print out flyers at home, then go and like hand them out at coffee shops, go hand them out at bookstores, go hand them out at, if there are music stores that still exist, go hand them out there, go put them in the weed dispenser, like whatever place that people hang flyers in your towns or in public places, do that. And then these QR codes link back to my Substack. I'm going to be making other QR codes that link to this. They're going to be like, we can do custom pages for this stuff if we need to, like whatever you want to, just to get people from like the general public putting something eye-catching. And what I really want to do, can I tell you guys a real secret? Because we're now past 2 a.m. Can I tell you guys the real secret? Ready? Is everyone ready? What I really want to do is I want to get this stuff, which this is the queer section. And I want to get this stuff about like these cool zines that, like, if you look at them from a ways away, they look very leftist, right? All this stuff looks very leftist, right? Because it's based on things the left are doing. And so it's going to blend right in with things the left is doing. What I want to do is I want to go find a bunch of queer specific coffee shops at locations in the country. And I want to get stuff like this. And I want to blow them up into like big ass posters. And I want to go out at night when no one's around. And I want to put a whole ton of these posters up around the queer coffee shop so that when the queer coffee shop owner comes in the morning, and doing all of this completely legally, of course, completely 100% legal. We would never, ever, 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 ever do anything illegal. So we're always going to abide by the law, because that's the most important thing, is that we are abiding by the law. But legally, I want to go to queer coffee shops and I want to poster them to high heaven with this stuff. And I want it to be done so when the owner comes in the morning, they get pissed off and they call the cops. And then the news shows up, and the news videos all of it, and then all of a sudden we're on the news. And then maybe we start going on to college campuses, and maybe we start putting this shit everywhere on college campuses, and we make these giant stickers that we're sticking everywhere. And we have all these flyers that we're putting everywhere. And maybe we coordinate a day where, like, everyone, just no matter where they are, everyone gets an assignment where they're printing off shit and they're going on to their local college campus and they're finding places where flyers are posted and stickers are stuck, and they put this shit everywhere and everyone takes a picture of it. And then everyone posts like on the same day that they're all out putting this shit all over college campuses. They don't show their photo, so it's all totally anonymous, but you show the flyers, you show them next to all the other college stuff. And like, we start to create this thing where anyone can go online and download this stuff to go sticker their college campus or to go to poster things. And all of a sudden this shit starts popping up on the news. Are you guys picking up what I'm putting down? That's what I want to do. Oh yeah, queer bars. Yeah. And the thing is, if we go into those places and we just start putting this stuff up, it looks like leftist literature until you look more closely at it. So no one's going to question it up until they get closer to it and they're like, what the fuck is this? Or up until they scan the QR code and my Substack comes up and it's an article explaining why queer is bad, we're doing a Little Oral Project Mayhem. Totally legally. This is our own Project Mayhem, people. In fact, why don't we call it that? Totally legally. Of course. So that's the plan. That's the plan. I just want to create a counterculture. And I just want to create a cult underground following. And I just want to create my own Project Mayhem legally. And that's what I want to do. And I may have gone through like a lot of bullshit to get to this point. But I don't think I could do what I'm doing right now if I hadn't gone through a lot of bullshit. MacB says, can I create my own anti-woke gaming community? Of course you can. You can do anything you want. If I have this submitted to undergraduate journals, I don't know if they will notice it. Well, maybe they will, maybe they won't. Anyway. It's 2:30 in the morning almost, so I'm going to go to bed. But thank you guys for hanging out. I do appreciate it. Yep, just like the job I just got fired from. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, David. But thank you to the super chat. I appreciate it. We could make small stickers and put them on cereal boxes. Yep. We can make bookmarks and go into independent bookstores or socialist bookstores. And just, when no one's looking, you sneak the bookmark into the books so that whoever buys the book finds the bookmark in the book. You know what I'm saying? No one else is going to think of this shit. No one else is going to do this shit. But I will. All right. I'm going to go to bed. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks for letting me talk. I appreciate it. Good night.